Well, welcome back to the hot seat. Delighted to be joined today by Atif Khalil, who is a partner at NOVAA and focused on community building within the next gen of the private wealth sector, the people that are coming through. Good afternoon, Atif.
Hi, David. How are you?
Very well, thank you. So thanks for joining
Good
us
stuff.
today. Be great to hear a little bit about your experience working with next gens and what you see as some of the latest trends from this emerging field.
Sure. I'll start by a very quick introduction to myself. So I've mainly been in the family office space for the past 10 years, working with various other families, including sort of my own as well. And I've been on the receiving side of a lot of these next gen gatherings, events, networking events, and so on. And you know, there's always been a gap within each of them, whether it's sort of, the content isn't right, the community isn't formed properly, or, it's just a sales type of
Hmm.
networking gathering. So being on the receiving side, it was always a challenge to really develop myself and enable myself to grow and also meet like-minded individuals. So taking that insight, I brought that into NOVAA, where I currently am. I've been here for a while, and sort of the main focus has been innovation as a business, but my focus is community building, especially around next gens. And we support corporates, nonprofit organizations, and so on. Yeah.
I mean, do you think firms provide a useful function in gathering next gens together, and that alone actually creates some value because at least conversations can happen between other clients? Or do you think they don't do that enough and actually they could create a lot more value by linking up the client base in the right environment?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great question. Sadly, they don't do it that well, to
Yeah.
be very honest with you. Um, and that's generally because they're using very traditional ways of engaging their clients, that
Mm.
work with previous generations, but doesn't necessarily work with the next gen. And
Mm.
they've seen the interaction with next gens, and generally fail, or their goals and sort of ambitions around engaging have failed. Um, so we tend to bring a bit of a different approach, where we really sit back and say, okay, the traditional approach hasn't worked, so what works, what are they really looking for, and what value can a corporate get from engaging next gens.
Mm.
um, just to sort of elaborate
Mm.
into that slightly further, so the way that we tend to look at next gens is on a personal level and on a business level, and also a sort of a community engagement as well. So on a personal level, what are they really after? What are they really seeking to
Mm.
engage with, and why are they engaging? Um, and I'll give an example of a corporate bank. Um, and a next gen will engage with a corporate bank because their parents have been clients potentially, or they're looking to, develop their own relationship with a relationship manager. And we sort of tend to fill the gap in between and say, okay, how do you best do that? So working on that, and also working on the networking element as well, and sort of the business part as well in terms of the content that's provided. Those are the three different key components that we tend to focus on.
Okay, I mean, do you think really it's the sort of the sales agenda gets in the way of them delivering more interesting content, in the sense of if the next gen want to find out about cryptocurrency or investing in property or things like that, there's some things that are just off the agenda in favor
Yeah,
of the agenda of whoever is hosting and putting people together, and that doesn't then satisfy people because they sit through a
exactly.
boardroom all day and don't learn what they want. What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I mean, you've totally hit the nail on the head. Generally with corporates, it's sales first, right? It's let's get these individuals on as clients first. But it's about building that relationship. Building that relationship, it's almost like saying, if we spend quality time deepening and strengthening those roots of the relationship, I will naturally become a client of
Mm.
you, and you'll and I'll naturally use your business, your corporation as a point of contact and reference for almost anything that I'm looking through in my life. But if you're selling me derivative products, like I've been in situations before straight away, and and meeting me, like, but I've got relationships, I've got friends that can help me through that. Let's work on this first. Let's work on building a relationship first. So yes, that definitely gets in the way. So it's always stepping back, taking a look at who these individuals are, what they want, and working with them on a personal level to deepen that relationship.
There was an interesting article in the newspaper on the weekend about saying, does the modern client, are they going to bank through digital applications? Do they want that sort of Coots account, or do they want the traditional private banking service? Or actually, will this whole generation effectively do things just so differently that they might be lost as customers because the providers don't give the client what they actually really want?
Yeah, that's again a very interesting question. I think it's a mixture of both, especially with high net worth, ultra high net worth, and family offices. These next gens have very complex relationships, investments, scattered all over the world, different types of investments, and it's always about sort of optimization and trying to achieve the best from everything that they have, including their relationship with their family. And there's only right now so much digital technology can do, especially when you're having to deal with your parents and that emotional aspect and so on. But there is definitely a balance of both worlds that these connections will take into consideration.
I mean, what about other sources of knowledge, like business schools or other? Do you see anyone providing this kind of knowledge in a different way without that same agenda? Is there any good innovation there?
Yes, there are universities out there that now provide sort of programs around family business. There's great organizations like the World Economic Forum that also assist with family businesses. Again, they do it quite well. World Economic Forum does it quite well because they are a non-profit organization. They look into the future in terms of, okay, how can we help these next gens implement change within their families and their businesses and their environment to consider the future in the future. And I think that's what's really missing with the other corporates. It's always thinking about now. You've got to understand, these next gens are not necessarily running their family businesses or have investing power today. They'll have it in the next 5 years, maybe, or more. So it's preparing for that. Yeah.
And I mean, what are you seeing? There's obviously innovation in the market. There's a huge amount of talk and copy written about next gens and trends. I mean, what are you seeing more nimble providers coming in and offering up to this new client base?
So with more nimble providers, what they're very good at doing is bringing in that sense of community. And it's not, they've almost kept the topics a little more generic and sort of more open to discussion. But what they've done very well is bring that community element in, where you're able to participate somewhere and you're able to share your ambitions, share your challenges, understand what like-minded individuals are doing in the same space, and the value the next gen that is able to gain from something like that is phenomenal. It's 100 times better than sitting in front of a lecture and hearing someone speak about some technology, some interesting technology. You're able to gain so much more. And what some of our clients have realized is a community has significantly less costs as well, compared to doing huge lectures in huge halls and inviting so many people around fancy dinners. I've seen some communities just have beer and pizza in a nice place, and that relaxed environment is what is missing.
Mm. And what do you think the balance is on face-to-face versus virtual in building these communities? Obviously, in the last 12 months, we've all been virtual. But as we move forward, what do you think the split has to be, or where's the most productive kind of connection community building done?
I think there has to be a mix of both. And the reason for that is where we've been able to now almost connect with anyone around the world and all different time zones. Normally I'd have to travel to meet these individuals and build that relationship, but now what we're able to do as with some of our clients is build that initial point of contact where all the next gens meet in one particular place and they get to know each other, and then reinforce that by online gatherings and online events where they're able to connect with different people across the world. And it's having that continuum, and having both online and in person, and really leveraging on both to achieve the best results.
Do you think this period has kind of enhanced people's ability to connect, online? I mean, it's amazing the amount of learning that next gens, I guess, around the globe can do now. They could do that before, but I think it's just this period has established it as a way of communicating, hasn't it?
Yeah, it definitely has. Of course, it's also had its drawbacks from the perspective of you're only able to learn so much about an individual online on Zoom. The in-person events really deepens that relationship a lot more.
And I mean, do you think that next gens care more about the family brand and how the family is perceived, the outside of their business, in their investments? We see a lot of copy written about sustainability, and that next gens are driving sustainable investing kind of agendas in families. Do you see that playing out? Is that a cliche? Is it, what do you sense on the priorities for investment for next gens?
Yeah. I mean, sustainability is definitely a priority for next gen. So is things like impact investing. But again, the corporates really haven't caught on to what these next gens really want from that. It's always let's create a product with this lens on it, but it's sometimes diving a little bit more deeper and really trying to understand what these next gens want, whether it's opportunities around particular industries and particular sectors that are demanding immediate change, such as climate change is at the top of the agenda right now. Maybe let's create a fund or an opportunity around that, rather than just label it impact investing type of fund and have everything and anything inside. Being more particular and specific, I think it's extremely important.
So it might be that it's just the collaboration effect across the community can be more powerful than having things come off the shelf and presented in that way.
Definitely.
Creates the inspiration.
Yeah, totally agree. I agree.
And I mean, do you see that in terms of the way as well they're running their businesses? Because obviously you're also advising next gens on coming to be part of the business, sit at the table and the family business. Do you think the way they run those businesses, the priorities will change, the sustainability dialogue will influence the way they make decisions about the business is set up?
Yeah, I think it will definitely change. We see next gens now, and we're working with next gens now who are now putting priority into their business and seeing how they can change and innovate their business model for it to be, firstly, competitive in tomorrow's world. And how can we change that particular business, or change the model of that business to adopt sustainability, to adopt incorporating underserved communities, and change the way that people are hired. There's so many adaptations that are taking place right now through these next gens. It's phenomenal, and I think the realization of that and the changes that will happen in the next 10-15 years, the corporates are really trying to get their hands on sort of clients right now. because it's a lot more easier.
Okay, well, and for those interested in finding out more about your community, getting involved, looking at some of the programs you're running, what's the best way for them to get involved?
Well, we run communities with various different clients, with banks and law firms and so on. We also run our own small community as well. Again, this is stripping away all the ego, all the sort of flashy stuff, and it's just beers and pizza or drinks at sort of the local bar, and really getting to know one another and offering that direction and that sort of personal mentorship is kind of what we do. So yeah, and they can sort of reach out to me directly, or they can reach out through our website.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you for talking to me today, Atif. A really interesting discussion, and we look forward to sharing this with our members.